Let me tell you what Sophia wisdom actually is. Not the mystical concept, not the divine feminine archetype, not the spiritual platitude about inner knowing. What Carl Jung discovered, it was psychologically, developmentally, mechanistically. Sophia wisdom isn't gift from the gods, isn't cosmic download, isn't special sensitivity you're born with. It's specific psychological achievement. Specific developmental milestone. Specific integration that occurs after you've completed particular sequence of inner work. And most people who talk about Sophia wisdom, who claim to embody it, who teach about divine feminine consciousness, they're describing the mythology without understanding the psychology. They're pointing to the archetype without comprehending the developmental process that makes genuine Sophia wisdom possible. And that's why their teachings produce spiritual bypassing rather than actual transformation. Produce people who perform wisdom without developing it. Produce communities organized around the idea of Sophia without anyone actually achieving the psychological state Jung documented. Jung wasn't interested in Sophia as mythological concept, was interested in what the mythology pointed toward, what psychological reality the ancient symbol represented. And what he found was precise developmental sequence, series of specific integrations that, when completed, produced particular consciousness. Consciousness that ancient wisdom traditions called Sophia, that Greek philosophy personified as goddess, that Gnostic texts described as divine feminine, but that Jung understood as psychological achievement accessible through specific inner work. This consciousness wasn't mysterious, wasn't supernatural, was result of having integrated specific psychological content in specific sequence, was outcome of developmental journey that most people never complete, was state that required dying to previous identity and emerging into unprecedented way of being, and Jung documented what this journey was, what had to be integrated, in what order, what each integration produced, what the final achievement looked like psychologically rather than mythologically. Today I'm going to reveal the psychology behind Sophia wisdom, the developmental sequence Jung documented, what actually has to happen internally for this consciousness to emerge, why most spiritual seekers never achieve it, what distinguishes genuine Sophia wisdom from the performances and projections that get mistaken for it, and what it means that you can't shortcut this, can't bypass the developmental stages, can't access the wisdom without completing the psychological work the mythology points toward. Jung identified that Sophia wisdom required completing 4 specific developmental stages in sequence, each stage built on previous, each integration enabled next. And attempting later stages before completing earlier ones didn't produce wisdom. Produced spiritual bypassing, produced performance of consciousness that person hadn't actually developed. Produced what Jung called premature transcendence, trying to achieve final stage without doing the foundational work. Understanding this sequence is crucial, because it reveals why most people never achieve Sophia wisdom, why spiritual communities are full of people performing wisdom they haven't developed, why teachings about divine feminine consciousness produce followers who can describe the concept but can't embody the reality. The sequence can't be rushed, can't be intellectualized, has to be lived, integrated, completed through actual psychological work rather than through belief or study or spiritual practice. Stage 1. Shadow integration. Sophia wisdom begins with confronting everything you've repressed, everything you've denied about yourself, everything you've projected onto others, everything you've split off and refused to own, the rage you've called other people's anger, the selfishness you've condemned while acting it out unconsciously, the cruelty you've denied while being cruel, the sexuality you've repressed while being controlled by it, the power hunger you've judged while manipulating for power, all of it has to be faced, owned, integrated. This isn't intellectual exercise, isn't making list of shadow traits and acknowledging you have them, is visceral confrontation with the parts of yourself you've spent your life avoiding, is seeing clearly how you've projected your darkness onto others and punished them for carrying what's yours, is recognizing patterns you've denied, is feeling shame and horror at behaviors you've been unconscious of, is owning completely the parts of yourself you've maintained self-image by refusing to see. Jung emphasized that most people never complete this stage. Do surface shadow work. Acknowledge some obvious denied traits, but don't go deep enough. Don't face the material that's most threatening to their self-image. Don't own the patterns that would destroy their identity if fully integrated. And without complete shadow integration, Sophia wisdom remains impossible, because wisdom requires seeing clearly. And you can't see clearly while projecting your darkness onto others. Can't perceive reality accurately while defending against your shadow. Can't achieve genuine consciousness while remaining unconscious of your own content. Stage 2. Anima, animus, integration. After shadow is integrated, after you've owned your darkness and stopped projecting it, next stage is integrating contrasexual aspects of psyche. For persons socialized as masculine, this means integrating the anima, the feminine aspects that were repressed to maintain masculine identity. For persons socialized as feminine, this means integrating the animus, the masculine aspects that were repressed to maintain feminine identity. This integration is more than acknowledging you have both masculine and feminine qualities, is dissolving the rigid identification with one side and repression of the other, is discovering that the traits you've projected onto opposite sex exist in you, that the feminine you've sought in women exists as undeveloped potential in yourself, that the masculine you've sought in men exists as unintegrated capacity in yourself and is bringing those aspects to consciousness, developing them, integrating them so you operate from wholeness rather than from split between conscious identification and unconscious projection. Jung documented that this integration transformed relating completely. Person who'd been seeking completion through other stopped seeking. Person who'd been projecting ideal feminine or masculine onto partners stopped projecting. They became whole, integrated both aspects within themselves. And from that wholeness, different kind of relating became possible, relating based on two whole people rather than two partial people seeking completion through each other. This was foundation for what Jung called conjunctio sacred marriage, but it couldn't happen until this stage was complete. And again, most people never complete this integration. Acknowledge they have some qualities associated with opposite sex, but don't fully develop those aspects. Don't dissolve the identification and projection. Maintain split where they're primarily one and seeking the other. And Sophia wisdom requires wholeness, requires operating from integration of both masculine and feminine, requires having developed both aspects sufficiently that you're not seeking completion. And that integration, that wholeness, most people never achieve. Stage 3. Ego, death, and self-emergence. After shadow integration, after anima, animus integration, comes most threatening stage, death of ego, not as spiritual concept, as psychological reality. The identity you've built, everything you think you are, everything you know about yourself, everything that gives you stable sense of self, has to die, has to dissolve, has to be surrendered completely. This isn't temporary ego dissolution during meditation, isn't spiritual experience that ends when you return to normal consciousness, is permanent death, is the person you've been ceasing to exist, is losing every reference point for who you are, is operating from complete groundlessness, where nothing you've built your identity on remains. And it's terrifying. Feels like actual death. Feels like annihilation. Feels like you're disappearing completely. Jung emphasized that you can't force this, can't make it happen through technique or practice. It occurs when enough integration has happened that ego structure can no longer be maintained. When shadow is owned and no longer projected, when anima, animus is integrated and no longer sought externally. When enough of what supported ego identity has dissolved that the structure collapses, and in that collapse, if person can tolerate the groundlessness without grabbing onto new identity, something else emerges. Jung called it the self. The self isn't better ego, isn't refined identity, is consciousness operating without identity structure, is awareness that doesn't depend on stable sense of who you are, is being without the need to know who you're being. And this emergence, this discovery of self after ego death, this is where Sophia wisdom begins to be possible. Because wisdom requires operating from self, requires consciousness that isn't defended by ego, requires perception that isn't distorted by identity maintenance, and that only becomes available after ego dies and self emerges. Most people never reach this stage, can't tolerate ego death, grab onto new identity before self can emerge, return to spiritual seeking as identity, become enlightened person as new ego structure, create awakened self, that's just another version of ego, and genuine Sophia wisdom remains inaccessible because it requires actual ego death, requires operating from self, requires the groundlessness and not knowing that most people will do anything to avoid. Stage 4. Integration of opposites into paradoxical wholeness. After self emerges, after ego death is complete, final stage is integrating all opposites, not choosing one side. Not transcending duality into oneness. Integrating opposites so you can hold paradox, can contain contradiction, can be both, and rather than either, or. Light and dark, good and evil, masculine and feminine, strength and vulnerability, wisdom and foolishness, life and death. All the opposites that ego needed to split to maintain coherent identity, self can hold simultaneously, can be compassionate and ruthless, can be loving and detached, can be engaged and witnessing, can be active and receptive, can be certain and completely uncertain, all at once, without needing to resolve the contradiction into false unity. This is what Jung called mysterium conjunctionis, sacred marriage, union of opposites, and it's what produces Sophia wisdom. The capacity to hold paradox produces penetrating sight. The capacity to contain contradiction produces understanding beyond rational mind. The capacity to be both and produces knowing that isn't limited to one perspective. And this knowing, this wisdom that emerges from integrated opposites, this is Sophia. But this integration can't be forced, can't be intellectually achieved, can only emerge after ego death, after self is discovered. After enough development that consciousness can actually hold opposites without fragmenting into dissociation. And most people never reach this, never complete the previous stages, never do the work that would make this integration possible. And Sophia wisdom remains concept they describe without consciousness they've achieved. Jung documented specific markers that revealed when someone had achieved genuine Sophia wisdom versus performing concept they hadn't developed. Understanding these markers is crucial because they distinguish actual attainment from the sophisticated performances and projections that look similar but are fundamentally different. Marker 1. They don't claim to have wisdom. Person with genuine Sophia wisdom doesn't identify as wise, doesn't claim special knowing, doesn't position themselves as teacher of wisdom. They operate from not knowing, from uncertainty, from groundlessness, and when insight emerges, when understanding appears, they're as surprised by it as anyone. Because it's not coming from them, it's coming through them. Emerging from self rather than from ego claiming wisdom. People performing wisdom claim it, identify with it, build identity around being wise, around having special insight, around understanding what others don't. And that claiming, that identification, reveals ego is still operating, that they haven't completed ego death, that what they're calling wisdom is ego structure organized around appearing wise. And Jung would recognize this immediately, would see that genuine Sophia wisdom doesn't claim itself, doesn't identify, operates from groundlessness rather than from identity as wise person. Marker 2. They hold paradox without resolution. Person with genuine Sophia wisdom can say contradictory things and mean both. Can hold opposing truths simultaneously. Can contain contradiction without needing to resolve it into false unity. They can be compassionate and ruthless, can care deeply and be completely detached, can engage fully and witness from distance. All simultaneously. And they're not confused, not unstable, are operating from integration that allows opposites to coexist. People performing wisdom can't hold paradox, choose one side, transcend into false unity where they claim all is one, and deny the reality of opposites. Or oscillate between opposites without integrating them. And Jung would observe this inability to hold paradox as evidence that mysterium conjunctionis hasn't occurred, that opposites haven't been integrated, that Sophia wisdom hasn't been achieved despite claims or performances suggesting otherwise. Marker 3. Their relating is non-manipulative. Person with genuine Sophia wisdom doesn't manipulate, doesn't use their insight to control others, doesn't deploy understanding as power, doesn't shape others' behavior through psychological sophistication. They perceive clearly, understand deeply, and let people be. Let them make their choices. Let them face their consequences. Without intervening, without rescuing, without using wisdom as tool for manipulation. People performing wisdom manipulate constantly, use psychological insight to control, deploy spiritual language to shape behavior, use appearance of wisdom to gain power, and they believe this is helping. Believe they're using wisdom for good, when actually they're operating from unintegrated power shadow. From ego, using wisdom performance as strategy for control. Jung would recognize this as evidence that shadow integration wasn't complete, that what's being performed as wisdom is actually sophisticated manipulation. Marker 4. They've lost interest in being special. Person with genuine Sophia wisdom has no investment in being different, being unique, being chosen, being special. The ego death dissolved all of that, and what remains operates from ordinariness, from not needing to be anything other than what they are, from complete lack of investment in being seen as wise or conscious or developed. People performing wisdom are deeply invested in being special, in being chosen, in being more conscious than others, in being part of elect who understand what masses don't. And this investment reveals ego is intact. That identity is organized around being special. That Sophia wisdom hasn't been achieved because the ego death that would dissolve all investment in specialness hasn't occurred. Jung would see this need to be special as clear marker of premature claim to wisdom. Jung emphasized that you couldn't skip stages, couldn't bypass shadow integration by claiming you've transcended shadow, couldn't avoid anima, animus integration by identifying as already whole, couldn't escape ego death by performing egolessness, couldn't achieve integration of opposites through intellectual understanding of paradox. Each stage required actual work, actual integration, actual psychological transformation, and attempting to perform later stage without completing earlier stages produced sophisticated spiritual bypassing, not wisdom. He also documented that the sequence took time, years, often decades, wasn't weekend workshop insight, wasn't retreat breakthrough, was sustained psychological work. Daily confrontation with shadow, ongoing integration of contrasexual aspects, tolerating ego death that felt like it would never end, slowly developing capacity to hold opposites. And most people weren't willing to do this work, wanted wisdom without development, wanted Sophia without the psychological journey, and settled for performing concept rather than achieving reality. The psychology behind Sophia wisdom is precise, is documented, is achievable through specific developmental sequence. But it's not mysterious, not magical, not gift you're born with or cosmic download you receive. It's result of deep psychological work, of integrating shadow completely, of developing both masculine and feminine aspects, of dying to ego and discovering self, of learning to hold opposites in paradoxical wholeness. And that work is demanding, is threatening, requires losing everything you've built your identity on, requires tolerating groundlessness most people find unbearable. If you're drawn to Sophia wisdom, Jung would tell you this: stop performing it, stop claiming it, stop identifying with it, start doing the actual work, face your shadow, all of it. The parts you've denied, the patterns you've projected, the darkness you've refused to own. Integrate it completely, then develop your contrasexual aspects. If you're masculine identified, integrate your anima. If you're feminine identified, integrate your animus. Become whole. Stop seeking completion through others. Then prepare for ego death, for the dissolution of everything you think you are, for groundlessness that feels like annihilation, for operating without stable sense of self. And don't grab onto new identity. Don't create awakened self or wise person identity. Let yourself be nothing. Let yourself not know who you are. Let self emerge from the groundlessness rather than creating new ego structure. Then learn to hold opposites, not intellectually, not as concept, but as lived experience. Be compassionate and ruthless, engaged and detached, certain and uncertain, loving and indifferent. All simultaneously. Hold the paradox, contain the contradiction, operate from both, and rather than either, or. And don't claim wisdom when it emerges. Don't identify with it. Don't build new ego around being wise. Let it operate through you without claiming it as yours. This is the psychology behind Sophia wisdom. Not mythology, not archetype, not divine feminine. Psychological achievement, developmental milestone, integration that produces specific consciousness. And it's available. But only through the work, only through the sequence, only through actually completing the stages rather than performing completion. Most won't do this. Will settle for performing wisdom without developing it. Will claim Sophia without achieving the psychological state Jung documented. And that's their choice. But for those who want genuine wisdom rather than performance, the path is clear. The psychology is documented. The work is waiting. Understanding what Sophia wisdom actually is psychologically demystifies it without diminishing it. Makes it accessible through concrete developmental work rather than leaving it as mysterious gift some people have and others don't. And reveals that the mythology, the archetype, the divine feminine symbolism, all of it points towards specific psychological achievement. Achievement that requires specific work, work that can be done. work that transforms person from performing wisdom to actually embodying consciousness that ancient traditions recognized and called Sophia. The question isn't whether Sophia wisdom is real. It is. Jung documented it, observed it, described the psychology behind it. The question is whether you're willing to do the work it requires. Willing to face your complete shadow. Willing to integrate your contrasexual aspects. Willing to die to your ego. Willing to discover self. Willing to hold opposites in paradoxical wholeness. Willing to operate from not knowing. Willing to let wisdom emerge without claiming it. Most aren't. Most want shortcut. Want to believe they already have it. Want to perform it without developing it. But for those who are willing, who can tolerate the developmental journey, who can do the actual psychological work, rather than just adopting the mythology, Sophia wisdom is achievable. Not as mysterious attainment, as psychological development, as integration that produces specific consciousness, as completion of sequence that most begin but never finish. The psychology is clear. The path is documented. The work is concrete. And the wisdom that emerges when the work is complete isn't performance, isn't claim, isn't identity, is consciousness operating from wholeness, from groundlessness, from integration of opposites, from self rather than from ego. And that consciousness, that way of being, that's Sophia. Jung's documentation of the psychology behind Sophia wisdom gives you map, shows you the developmental stages, reveals what has to be integrated, explains why most people never achieve it, distinguishes genuine attainment from performance and projection, and offers concrete psychological path rather than mystical promise. Path that requires years, that demands everything, that threatens your identity, that requires dying to who you think you are, but path that produces actual wisdom, not claimed, not performed, achieved through deep psychological work that transforms you fundamentally. The mythology of Sophia points to this psychology. The archetype represents this consciousness. The divine feminine symbolizes this integration. But the reality is developmental, is psychological, is result of specific work in specific sequence. And understanding the psychology doesn't diminish the profundity, makes it more profound, because it reveals that wisdom isn't gift, isn't accident, isn't special sensitivity you're born with, is achievement, is result of sustained effort, is outcome of doing the hardest psychological work possible. And that achievement, that earned wisdom, is more valuable than any cosmic download or divine gift could ever be, because you developed it, transformed yourself to achieve it, did the work the mythology points toward. This is the psychology behind Sophia wisdom. This is what Jung understood beneath the mythology. This is the developmental path that produces the consciousness ancient traditions recognized and revered. And it's available to anyone willing to do the work, anyone willing to complete the sequence, anyone willing to integrate shadow, develop contrasexual aspects, die to ego, discover self, and hold opposites in paradoxical wholeness. The psychology is clear. The work is demanding. The outcome is genuine wisdom rather than performance of concept. And whether you choose to do the work or settle for performance, that choice determines everything. Jung gave us the map, documented the psychology, described the stages, revealed the markers of genuine achievement, and distinguished real wisdom from sophisticated performance. Now the work is yours. Either do it or don't. Either complete the sequence or settle for claiming wisdom you haven't developed. Either integrate completely or perform partially. Either die to ego and discover self or maintain identity as wise person. Either hold opposites or choose sides. Either achieve Sophia wisdom through deep psychological work or adopt the mythology without doing the development it points toward. The psychology is waiting. The path is clear. The choice is yours. The profundity of Sophia wisdom isn't in its mystery, is in its achievability through concrete psychological work. The sacred isn't in its divine origin, is in the human development required to reach it. The wisdom isn't gift from gods, is hard-won integration that transforms you from performing consciousness you don't have into embodying consciousness you've developed. And that transformation, that achievement, that completion of developmental sequence most people never finish, that's what makes Sophia wisdom sacred. Not because it's bestowed, because it's earned, not because it's mysterious, because it requires you to do the hardest work possible, not because it's special, because it's available to anyone willing to complete the journey. Jung's psychology behind Sophia wisdom reveals that ancient traditions understood something profound about human development, that they recognized consciousness that could only emerge after specific integration, that they honored achievement that required completing difficult inner work, that they created mythology to point toward psychological reality. And that mythology, that symbolism, that archetype of divine feminine wisdom, all of it points toward what Jung documented psychologically, toward integration that's possible, toward consciousness that's achievable, toward wisdom that's result of development rather than gift of birth. And understanding the psychology doesn't diminish the sacred, makes it more sacred, because it makes it real, makes it accessible, makes it yours to develop if you're willing to do the work. This is what Jung discovered beneath the mythology of Sophia. This is the psychology behind the archetype. This is the developmental path that produces the wisdom, shadow integration. Anima, animus, integration. Ego, death. Self, emergence. Integration of opposites. Each stage building on previous, each requiring actual work, each transforming you fundamentally. And the final stage, the mysterium coniunctionis, producing consciousness that can hold paradox, that operates from groundlessness, that perceives without projection, that knows without claiming. That is wisdom, without identifying as wise. That's Sophia, that's the psychology, that's the achievement, and it's waiting for anyone willing to walk the path. The question Jung would ask you is simple. Do you want to perform wisdom or develop it? Do you want to claim Sophia or achieve the consciousness the symbol represents? Do you want to adopt the mythology or do the psychology? Because you can't have both, can't perform and achieve simultaneously, can't claim wisdom while doing the work that produces genuine development. You choose. And your choice determines whether you join the many who perform Sophia wisdom without developing it, or the rare few who complete the psychological journey and discover that the mythology was pointing toward real transformation all along. Jung documented the psychology, gave you the map, showed you the stages, revealed what genuine achievement looks like, and distinguished it from performance. Now it's your choice. Do the work or don't. Complete the sequence or claim you already have. Integrate or perform integration. Die to ego or create new spiritual ego. Hold opposites or transcend into false unity. Develop Sophia wisdom through years of deep psychological work, or adopt the concept and perform consciousness you haven't achieved. The psychology is clear, the path is documented, the work is waiting. And whether you walk it determines everything, because Sophia wisdom isn't about believing, is about becoming. And becoming requires the work Jung documented, the psychology you now understand, the development most people never complete. This is the psychology behind Sophia wisdom, precise, documented, achievable, not through mystical practice, through psychological work, not through divine grace, through human development. Not through special election, through completion of specific sequence. Shadow integration, anima, animus integration, ego, death, and self-emergence. Integration of opposites into paradoxical wholeness. Do the work, complete the stages, achieve the consciousness, and discover that what the mythology called Sophia, what the archetype represented, what the divine feminine symbolized, it was always psychological reality waiting to be developed. Always human potential waiting to be actualized. Always wisdom waiting to be earned through the hardest inner work possible. That's the psychology. That's the path. That's what Jung understood and documented. And whether you develop it or just describe it, that determines whether you ever actually know Sophia wisdom or just know about it. The final truth Jung would emphasize: Sophia wisdom can't be taught, can only be developed, can't be transmitted, can only be earned, can't be given, can only be achieved through completing the psychological work the mythology points toward. And that work is individual, is personal, is your journey that no one else can walk for you. The psychology gives you map, but you have to walk the path. You have to integrate your shadow. You have to develop your contrasexual aspects. You have to die to your ego. You have to discover yourself. You have to learn to hold opposites. And when you complete all of that, when you've done the work, Sophia wisdom isn't something you claim, is consciousness you've become, is way of being you've developed, is achievement that transformed you. That's the psychology. That's the truth. That's what's waiting.